Um, we are here to play another session with a game called The Pool. And for this second session, I have three of the players from last week with us. And we are also joined by Linnea, who has devised a character for us. Just as a quick little reminder for everybody, we are playing this game set in a weird off-kilter high school called Palmer Eldritch High. The returning characters are Lydia Dietz, who is a student who's in a band. We have Jebediah Smith, who's another student who is a former cult member, and Agatha Galloway, who is the head librarian of Palmer Eldritch High. And this week we are joined by a ghost named Callum. Let me go around first, and I will have the players introduce themselves to us. And if you want to just both introduce yourself by name, but also just say a few other quick words about your character. And I'm just going to work my way left to right across my character keeper here. So, Ryan, let's start with you.
Lydia and Prudence and Bertha are all in a band called the Brides of Funkenstein, and they're planning to play in the Battle of the Bands against the Clarinets, although both Lydia and Claire have recently gotten detention on the Saturday schedule for the Battle of the Bands.
Okay. Brandon, tell us about Jeb.
All right, I'm Brandon, and I'm playing as Jebediah Smith. Jebediah was a cult member in a cult that was worshiping kind of the end of the world, and they believed that he was the guy that was going to bring it about. And so he escaped this cult, but before he escaped, he was kind of possessed by this demon inside of him, which tells him to do all these bad things all the time and leads him down bad directions. And so as we caught up with him, his cult is coming after him because they think he's the chosen one, and he wants to flee, but Beetlejuice, who's connected to Lydia, has kind of bailed out Jebediah, so he feels like he's got to stay and pay back the debt, so to speak, before he can, destroy the planet.
Okay. And Laura, tell us about Agatha.
Okay, so Agatha Galloway has a PhD from Miskatonic University in library sciences. And is the head librarian at Palmer Eldritch, and was an alum. She was tapped by the previous librarian, Mr. Madam Ford, who mysteriously disappeared as the successor to the library positioning. She's an aspiring writer and adores Virginia Woolf. She's currently working on a novel that is a bunch of short stories, and she speaks in a kind of odd stream of consciousness manner. And she has recently grown very close to Lydia and Jebediah and feels a kind of responsibility for these kids and has an inkling that they may be the key to her novel.
Okay. And then finally, Linnea, tell us about Callum.
Okay, cool. So Callum is a ghost who died in the 1960s on the school grounds at Palmer Eldritch. And he's kind of really old school, conservative, and chases a lot of the students that are running late to class, steals experiments from the biology department. He hates anything modern technology, liberal, anything forward thinking, anything inclusive or diverse he hates, and will always be mumbling and moaning about his missing stopwatch. And he always feels a little bit of he's trying to compensate for his own difficulties when he was growing up. So he's always lashing out in a kind of irrational, irresponsible manner to the students of Palmer Eldritch.
Okay. Just a little bit about the circumstances of Callum's death. He died on school grounds. Any other details you would want to give us on what led to his demise?
Well, I think that's what he's trying to figure out. He doesn't remember how he died. So that's a good question.
Okay. All right. Maybe we will find out something about this as we play.
Yes.
Before getting into it, I also just want to call everybody's attention to the top left of the character keeper, where I have the lines and veils. This I think was a pretty lighthearted kind of game that we have, but we always have. If there's anything that you would like to rule out of bounds in the game as content that you're really not interested in having introduced at all, feel free to put that in as a line. And then a veil would be something where you would say, okay, well, it would be okay to mention this kind of subject matter as long as we don't dwell on it or describe it in graphic detail or something of that matter. And if there's anything that any of you would like to put in the lines and veils right now, feel free to do that. And it's always kind of open for you to add lines or veils in the course of the game as well. Because, with role-playing games, since they're so open-ended, you don't necessarily know where things are going. But as I say, I think that this was a pretty somewhat lighthearted comic game that we were into last week. Okay, and what we're going to do this week is a little experiment, which is we're going to play things in reverse order. And so the way this will work is I'm going to frame a scene for us. And the first scene that I frame is actually going to be the last scene chronologically of this story that we are putting together, okay? And what I'm going to do is I will kind of frame the scene, and for the most part, I am not going to put your characters in the scene, but I'm going to kind of go around the table then quickly after I frame it, and usually you will be able to decide where you want your character to be and what you want your character to be doing in that scene, okay? So, the opening scene, it is Saturday night, the night of the Battle of the Bands. We are in the gym of Palmer Eldritch High School, but the bleachers have all been pushed back and the floor has all been opened up. There's a stage, which is where the bands are playing. There was a big crowd there, but something has gone foul, not surprisingly, during the Battle of the Bands. And when the scene opens, we see, first of all, the stage. It is bathed in the lights that are the color of the school. And the school colors are blood orange and reddish green. So you have that kind of light kind of streaming down on the stage. There is the smell, the heavy smell of an electrical fire in the gym. You hear screaming, and most people are panicked and are rushing to the exit doors, okay? There are sparks coming out of the speakers and the soundboard. Smoke is kind of billowing out of the speakers and the soundboard. Up on stage, you have Beetlejuice behind the drum kit, and there is music being played while this is going on. Beetlejuice is on the drums. Lydia, I am going to put you in the scene playing the lead guitar. And behind the mic is Mr. Madamford. This was the previous librarian who mysteriously had disappeared, but for some odd reason, he is their lead vocals. He looks very pale. He's almost like glowing, okay, as he's up there. And you see him singing this song. The lyrics that he is singing are coming out of this book of experimental short stories that Agatha has been trying to get accepted by the publishers. That's gotten rejected 87 times. But somehow, Mr. Madamford is able to use the words from some of these stories as the lyrics to this song that he is singing. Um, Most people, as I say, are panicked and are rushing out of the gym. You do see in the back of the gym a few people who are not running out. One of them is Claire. And Claire is looking at the stage, and she seems to be very angry. She is just fuming as she looks at the stage. Also in the back, not with Claire, but to the side, you see those two cult members, Moses and Hannah. They are actually praying. They're like on their knees with their eyes tightly shut, and they are. Jeb, where are you in this scene, and what are you doing?
So I believe Jeb is probably sitting, like, not really sitting, but he's like kind of near the stage, right? Because he can't be that far away from Lydia at this point in time because of Beetlejuice. So he's kind of near the stage. But then when Beetlejuice pops out, the voice inside of Jeb's head starts just like losing it, like wanting to jump up on stage and just like attack Beetlejuice and all that kind of stuff. And Jeb doesn't want to do it, right? So the human part of him doesn't want to do it. The demon part of him does want to do it. And so he's kind of sitting in the corner, like in the fetal position, like not knowing what to do and kind of stuck like in between those two ideas right now. Like that's where he's at.
Okay. Agatha, what about you?
So I think that I had when the music started playing and I started listening to the lyrics, I just kind of stopped and just started like looking, like, how did you get my And now I'm doing an interpretive dance to my words,
Okay.
and I'm just kind of in a trance. Yeah.
And it seems like you would be kind of by yourself then, right? Off, kind of getting into the groove. Okay. And what is Callum up to right now?
Callum really, I don't really like this idea of using modern technology for music. So I'm messing with a lot of the audio equipment behind stage, trying to make things glitch out and trying to crash the concert.
Okay. Okay, and then let's go up to the stage. Lydia, what are you doing up there?
Yeah, so I think Lydia would recognize at least some of this as Beetlejuice is doing. Um, and so she's going with it, especially since Claire seems to not be happy about it. And so I imagine that like Lydia's playing guitar and then Bertha is on bass. They're kind of doing that back to back thing. I'm imagining like these 80 hair metal bands, like when they're playing their instruments back to back. And so they're playing back to back. And yeah, she's just rocking out, going with whatever's happening up on stage.
Okay, so Claire, who has been fuming, she finally pulls herself a little bit together out of her anger, and she comes kind of marching across the gym floor, jumps up on the stage, and she is going to try to wrest the microphone out of the hands of Mr. Madamford. Agatha, you notice this. She's kind of gone up there, and now there's a little tug of war going on between the former librarian who had been singing, but this has now disrupted his singing. But what do you do?
So I take her hand and I spin her onto the dance floor with me. And I start saying to her, the beauty of the world has two edges, one laughter, one anguish, cutting the heart asunder. And all the lives we ever lived and all the lives to be are full of trees and changing leaves.
Okay. So,
and have her start dancing with me.
Okay. So you're going to be using your trait of this stream of consciousness speech to try to kind of
I
confuse
think I
her?
am.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the way this works is if you want to if you're in a conflict or there's a challenging situation, which this is, and you're trying to accomplish something, I will give you bonus dice,
Okay.
usually between 1 and 3. So for this, I'm going to give you the standard 2 dice as the GM gift to you.
Okay.
And then you'll be able to roll the 2 bonus points for your stream of consciousness speech ability,
Right.
which gives
So
you
I have 4 die in total.
correct. And then you can decide whether you want to gamble any of your remainder dice, or if anybody else in the scene wants to assist you, they can do that. So Laura, did you want to gamble any dice?
Not this time. I think I'm going to save up my die.
Okay. Is there anybody else who wants to assist Agatha?
I think Lydia might like throw on a wah-wah pedal and like play the guitar to kind of like match the weird stream of consciousness that's going on right now.
Okay.
So I'll throw 1 die in there to help out.
Okay. So
Oh, and I have a question.
yeah.
Does my knowing Mr. Madamford add those die with it?
When you do this, if multiple traits could come into play, you choose which one you want to use.
Oh, okay. I think I want to use the stream of consciousness then.
Okay. All right. So you have five
Yeah.
to roll here, and you want to roll a 1 for a success.
Yeah. Okay, gnarly. All right. So my first roll was a 5, a 2, a 3, 3, and a 1. I have 1 1.
Okay. So you got 1-1. So with the success, Lydia, you're down to 2 dice, right? I mean, you.
I already subtracted the
you did?
1,
Okay.
so yeah.
So you did that. Okay. So and then Laura, you get a monologue of victory now. So you get to take over the narrative briefly and describe what's happening.
So I think that Claire begins to recognize some of my lyrics, and like this strikes a chord within her, something deep within her blackened soul, and it sparks a little bit of light, and so she begins to dance with me, like, and singing along with the lyrics and just letting the words flow over her.
So she's becoming, she's overcome by the music. She's actually kind of transformed a bit by what's happening. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is going on, and the 2 cult members, Hannah and Moses, they have been intently praying, and Jeb, you sense that even though they're on the far side of the gym from you, and you're kind of like rolled up a little bit, anguished, you start to hear what they are saying in their prayer. And it doesn't really, in a way, make sense, because you shouldn't be able to hear what they're saying. But for some reason, you are able to pick up on those words. And the words are calling upon that demon inside of you to return to home. They are like, oh, great spirit inside of Jeb, come back to us now. Join the church with us. We know that you were kind of separated from us under circumstances that neither you nor we could control, but it is time to bring an end to all of this. And the 2 of them stand up now, and they are starting to walk towards you. What do you do?
Okay, so what I think is going to go on here is that Jeb's got that internal battle going on, right? And I think that the demon inside of him, while he's hearing what the cult member's saying and is obviously wants to go with them, the big elephant in the room is Beetlejuice, who apparently, I think the demon and Beetlejuice have some kind of relationship that goes into the like underworld, right? Like they know each other in some way. So Jeb, basically, the demon inside of him just takes over. But instead of going to the cult members, Jeb tries to bum rush Beetlejuice on stage and just kind of like go after him behind the drum set, right? So that's what I'm thinking is going to be like where he's going at that point in time.
And the spirit inside of you, or this demon, has a hatred towards Beetlejuice. Is that right?
Big time.
Okay.
Like pure rage.
Okay. Yeah. So he's trying to disrupt this by going after the drummer. Let me turn to Lydia. What would Beetlejuice do under this kind of circumstance? What would you do? What would Lydia do if she sees like Jeb kind of jumping up and seems to be kind of going after the drummer?
Yeah. So I'm not sure that Lydia would do much in defense of Beetlejuice because she knows that Beetlejuice can hold his own. So I mean, she might be kind of like shocked that this is happening, but I'm not sure she would intervene in any way. So I mean, do we know anything about the demon inside Jeb, other than the fact that it appears to hate Beetlejuice?
So the demon inside of him is just kind of one of these demons that he doesn't really know about. It just kind of tempts him towards all of these kind of really like bad decisions, right? So you say it's more of a nefarious demon, right? It's like like the voice on your head that says the thing you probably shouldn't do, that's what you should do, and that's the demon that's kind of tempting him to do all these things all the time. And the cult believes the demon to be some sort of like sign of revelations, right? But he doesn't know the demon's name, because if he knows the demon's name, then he can get rid of it. So you don't know anything like that, right? So that's where he's at as far as the information on that goes.
All right. So I think then that like maybe this demon and Beetlejuice know each other pretty well, because it sounds like they operate roughly the same, except that Beetlejuice is just all in it for the fun. Like he's not trying to bring about the end of the world. He just wants to like tempt people to do stuff because it's fun. And so if he saw like possessed Jeb running towards him, he would probably love this and like kind of like bring it on kind of thing and just brace for Jeb's attempt to tackle and try to turn it against him somehow.
Okay, so I feel like given this, I feel like we should have a roll to see how this kind of confrontation comes out. I think Jeb, for you, you have this demon inside that gives you short bursts of extraordinary strength and speed, and it seems like that would be a trait that would be coming into play here, with the rush on Beetlejuice. And so why don't you roll 2 dice for that? I'm going to give you another dice as just my gift. So that's going to give you 3 dice as to whether you are as to whether the demon is going to be successful in pulling this off. Did you want to try to boost your demon at all, or are you going to just kind of keep it with?
I don't know. I think I'm going to save him for the time being.
Okay.
See how this is going to go. So I got 3.
Yep.
All right. All right. Let me roll. That would be a big failure. I got a 6, a 4, and a 5. So maybe I should have.
Okay. Well, I guess it depends on who you want to win out in this encounter, right? Well, we may be cheering for Beetlejuice. So do you want to add another die to your pool for this, or do you want to take the monologue of defeat?
I'll take the monologue of defeat.
Okay.
All right. So Jeb runs up. He bum rushes the stage, and Beetlejuice pulls out, the giant clown hammer he has in the movie, right? The thing that comes out there, and just like smashes it on his head, right? And so Jeb is effectively just like knocked down. And at that point in time, like the demon just kind of takes over and then gets up, but he's just kind of smashed to the ground by Beetlejuice, who's playing the drums while simultaneously hitting him with the giant circus mallet.
Okay, yeah, so that happens. I feel like with this, this ends up being a success on Beetlejuice's part, and yeah, so Jeb gets knocked down, but I'm going to just add that the demon actually comes out of Jeb at this point. Kind of physically, you see a separation kind of happening as a result of this. Jeb is kind of in this bleary, confused state, but you see we see the demon kind of coming out of him, and the demon is I think furious, right? Is angered that his ploy has not worked. Could you describe what the demon would look like?
So the first thing that pops in my head would be like, I don't know, like a red, like a red businessman, right? That's kind of like these horns out there and a fedora on, and it's just like got like fire. I'm thinking like Charles Krauthammer, like like something like that. That's like very very kind of weathered, but he's red and he's got horns but a fedora on, right? And instead of eyes, he's just got like flaming pits, like just kind of staring fire at people.
Okay. Let's turn to Callum now. You have been, I think, partly responsible for the smoke and the sparks kind of flying out of all this technology equipment, and you see this kind of ruckus that's now kind of engulfing the stage. What does Callum do?
So I'm really excited that all of this chaos is happening and we're not using the technology for the concert. So that feels like a big win for me. I'm also very much for the protection and success of all of the students at the school. So this demon leaving Jebediah, to me, it's a really good thing. So I want to jump in there and make sure that Jeb is going to be okay, and that this demon stays out. So I would like to use my swift movement agility if I need to, depending on how far away I am, in order to get in between them.
All right, this sounds good to me. I'm going to give you 2 bonus dice as my GM gift to you. You will get 1 die for the swiftness. Do you want?
And those are all D6s, right?
Correct. So that gives you 3. Now the remaining die you have 5, and the way this works is you can choose to gamble 1 or more of those if you would like. If you end up gambling those and roll a success, you lose those die, but in exchange you get a monologue of victory. If you gamble the die and you do not get a success, you don't lose them, and in fact you can choose to either take a additional die to add to the remainder, or you can instead take a monologue of defeat if you want to do that. So do you want to gamble any of your 5 points?
I mean, the monologues are tempting, so I will take one of my remaining die.
Okay.
To add, so I'll do a 4d6 roll then in the end, right?
Okay, yeah, and then last we can ask if any of the other players want to assist in this roll.
Jeb would definitely like to assist as he's being pummeled into the ground by a giant sledgehammer. All right, so I'll give her. I got 9, so I'll give her 2.
Okay, so you're going to give her 2, so she'll have six to roll. Jeb, exactly how are you assisting in this?
So Jeb can see the spirits, right? That's part of one of the things he's doing, right? So he's going to try to, I guess, get out from underneath the hammer, right? And then try to tackle the demon as opposed to Beetlejuice, right? At the same time, and basically like put all the direction onto him.
Right. So the demon is now effectively kind of getting attacked by 2 people now, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Linnea, you can roll 6 6-sided die, and you are looking to get at least 1 1 for a victory.
Okay. I have a 2, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6.
So no successes.
No.
Okay.
No.
So with that, you have a choice then. So Jeb, you don't lose any of yours, and Linnea, you can either add another die to your remainder pool, or you can take a monologue of defeat.
I'm gonna take a monologue of defeat.
Okay.
I run up towards the demon, and as I go to tackle him, I phase right through because we are made of different materials, ethereal materials,
Okay.
and I'm very sad.
Yeah, so you do that, and when you're kind of rushing through him, you actually even feel like there's a little bit of your energy that has been kind of taken from you. And in
Oh no.
fact, this demon now, he seems to be growing a little bit as a result of that, right? He's kind of taken that energy in. Those horns seem to be a little bit longer, a little bit more sharp, and a big grin appears on his face, and he beckons Hannah and Moses over and says, "Come, let us take Jeb back with us." And you know, Hannah and Moses, they initially seem a little bit confused because this does seem actually kind of demonic to them, but they seem to be kind of compelled by him now, right? That you know, because they had when the demon was inside of Jeb, they kind of saw that as Jeb's. You know, that's part of what attracted them to Jeb and kind of got them to think of you as some type of savior for their cult. And so they have now kind of appeared next to Jeb and are kind of lifting him up and kind of taking him away. They're going for a different exit than everybody else rushed through. There's a kind of back exit that they are taking him towards. So Agatha, you would see this happening. You know, you're there, I guess, dancing with Claire, who's into the groove. But what do you do at this point?
I have a question. What is the logistics of Jeb? Where is he? Is he being carried now by the demon?
He's kind of he's being dragged by Hannah and Moses, but the demon is walking with them as well. That they have kind of separated themselves from the stage and are kind of dragging Jeb across the floor.
Okay, so I think I would see this happening, and something deep within me would probably pull me towards Jeb and just be very concerned with his safety. So I think that I leave Claire on the floor. I'm assuming that she is still entranced with the music, but I rush towards Jeb and try to pull him away so that I can get him out of this situation.
Okay. So you're just trying to physically kind of intervene here to pull him away?
Yeah. I mean, and maybe I do start speaking to the demon and to what are their names? Hannah and
Moses.
Yeah, I say each of his past shut him in like the leaves of a book known to him by heart, and his friends can only read the title. I worship you. I hate your smugness, its safety, and your compromise. Mrs. Dalloway, no, Miss Galloway is always giving parties to cover the silence. Give me Jeb for my parties.
Okay, so with this, I think you can either... Certainly, your responsibility for Lydia, Jebediah, and Beetlejuice, you could use that, or you could go back to using your stream of consciousness speech.
Which ones are going to give me more dice?
Well, the stream of consciousness has two points attached to it.
All right, I think I'll use that.
Okay, so that gives
Or
you
well, yeah.
okay. That gives you 2.
Yeah.
I will give you 2. That gives you 4. Do you want to gamble any of your remainder?
Yeah, I'm gonna gamble. Let's see. I'll gamble one of my remainder.
Okay. And does
All right,
anybody
here we
else?
go.
Well, wait a minute. Does anybody else want to?
Oh.
Is anybody else going to help with this? Yeah.
I'll help.
Okay.
So I'll give you 2. And
Okay.
Jeff just starts mumbling incoherently, like just along the same lines as what Agatha's mumbling. So like he starts saying random things, and he just starts saying also random things that seem to be not connected in any way.
Okay, so we get like stereo effects, stream of consciousness going on now. Okay, so you got 7 to roll, Laura.
7 die. Okay. So, all right. With my first 6, I have 1-1,
Okay.
and then yeah, I have 1-1.
Okay, so any of the gambled dice go away. So Jeb, you're down to 8.
That's what, 2?
Yeah, and you gambled 2, right? So you're down to 1, right?
I gambled 1.
Oh, you gambled 1, so you're down to 2. Okay.
Yeah.
So
I gambled 2. I lost 2.
oh, okay. All right. I think I have that correct. So Laura, give us a monologue of victory.
Okay. So I think I managed to pull Jeb away. I think that my our combined speeches probably like loosened the grip of whoever was dragging Jeb along. And then I think that maybe the demon probably was kind of like thrown a little bit off kilter by the words that we were saying, just kind of like, these are oddly familiar to me. And that distracted them enough so that I could pull them away and we could start scampering off.
Okay. So that happens. You're able to, your action was mainly directed towards Hannah and Moses, and you are kind of successful in kind of extricating Jeb from their evil clutches. But the demon is still there. Callum, let's go to you. And what I want to say is that this demon that has appeared, this is not a demon that you are familiar with. However, what is going on does kind of ring a bell to you, and you feel like this is, what you are seeing unfolding here seems kind of familiar and seems somehow related to the way that you were killed when you were on school grounds. It's kind of coming back to you now that there was some type of demon possession that was happening at Palmer Eldritch back in the 60s, and that this somehow is kind of connected to your demise. So what do you do? And
right, so I'm still kind of getting up off the ground after having tried to tackle this demon, and I turn around with this like knowing look in my eyes, and I say, "No, it can't be. The demon of Eldritch is back." And I'm just kind of starting to feel certain gears and cogs click into place in my mind where pieces that have been locked away are starting to open up again. And I start to remember, and I start mumbling about, this was something that was affecting not just me, but the entire faculty was possessed, as if this was something that was completely maddening every one of my colleagues, and I was the only one who could see it. So I'm starting to remember that there was some sort of event in the 60s, which is when I'm fairly sure that I died, and that the rest of the faculty at the time was either entranced by, or there was someone that was possessed by, but this demon was definitely involved with a lot of the faculty at the time around my death.
You're getting up and saying that, and I want to say that Beetlejuice is close by and kind of hears that, and Beetlejuice looks at Callum and says, "Brother, you are right on. You are reading the situation exactly correctly. We need to deal with that demon and banish him forever." And Beetlejuice stops playing the drums, throws down the sticks, and says, "Let's take him on." And he goes kind of off the stage, kind of beckoning you to follow him. You see Beetlejuice take off, and Callum, what do you do?
Yeah, so I follow Beetlejuice because I like how he's thinking, and I have no idea how to tackle this demon. Obviously, it got the better of me last time, and this time my physical attack didn't do much. In fact, it seemed to do the opposite and give it a bit of energy. So I'm thinking Beetlejuice has the right idea. So I go and follow him.
Okay.
And I'm assuming also, just as a side note, does my strike fear anxiety inducing area of effect, does that affect other ghosts? Like Beetlejuice?
I think it could. And if you wanted to use that as a bonus, what I would do is give it some bonus points now, because you can, right, you have 5 in your remainder pool right now. So you could either give it 1 point, which would give you 4 in the remainder, or you could assign it a +2 bonus and give you 1 in your remainder pool if you want to do that.
Right. Yeah, I think I'll give it 1 just because I think it's not going to be super powerful.
Okay. Right.
Is my feeling.
So you give that 1, and yeah, I'll drop you down to 4 in the remainder. So you're going to try to strike fear. I'm going to give you, since you have Beetlejuice there, I am going to give you 3 as my GM bonus dice for this. Agatha and Jeb, you have a choice to make right now, because you are separated from Hannah and Moses. They are, it's fair to say that they're a little confused by all these things that are happening right now. But they may try to kind of go back after Jeb. What would you do? And you definitely see Beetlejuice and Callum that are kind of going after the demon. Agatha, do you know Callum? I mean, has he made an appearance before that you're aware of?
Well, I wonder if Callum maybe like at some point probably. I mean, the kind of student that I was probably meant that I did not get to class on time very often because I was often caught up in my own world. So I feel like Callum and I have definitely crossed paths before. I don't know if it was in so many words as like we knew each other by like name, but I feel like I definitely understood that there was some kind of alternate energy having an effect on the school when I was there.
Okay. So what do you do at this point? I mean, are you all gonna just continue to try to widen the distance between yourselves and Hannah and Moses, or are you gonna do something with the demon confrontation?
I think that, I mean, well, where's Mr. Madam Ford?
I think Mr. Madam Ford, he's still on the stage. And you look up at him, and he's kind of still, he's not singing anymore, but he's still kind of thumbing through that book up there. And Laura, if you want Mr. Madam Ford to do something, you have that down as one of your resources to draw upon. Okay.
I guess maybe I shout to him, Mr. Madamford, come with us. And try to get him to follow me and Jeb.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think hearing you, he will wave at you and say, "Oh, Agatha, so good to see you again." And he hops down off the stage and kind of starts quickly walking across towards you.
I guess I rush towards him, take him by the hand, and I try to meander our way out of the gym.
Okay. And Jeb, what are you going to be doing at this point?
All right. So my thought is that Jeb wants to be done with this demon once and for all. And when he sees this confrontation going on, right, he starts saying or wanting to go nearer to Beetlejuice to say, "Listen, man, you know, we have an enemy here that's the same. You don't like him, I don't like him. You know, I can help you or make a deal with you if you help me get rid of this guy forever. Then maybe we can make a deal about something that you might want in the future." So Jeff wants to try to make a deal with Beetlejuice to try to help rid the world of the fire businessman demon.
All right, so if I'm understanding correctly, then Callum, Beetlejuice, Jeb, and Laura are all, and Agatha are all together?
No, I think Agatha is Agatha, what are you trying to do at this point? Are you still trying to remove Jeb from the gym?
I would like to remove Jeb from the danger, and Mr. Madamford.
Okay, I think you and Jeb need to have a quick conversation to kind of get on the same page then.
Okay.
Where do you want to go, Agatha? Do you want to go away or do you want to stay in?
I think that it would probably be best for us to go away. I don't see how we can give much to the situation except for being another group of people to try to not get hurt. I think we let the spirits deal with this one.
All right, that's fair. All right, so I'll go with Agatha and kind of hope for a good resolution here for my demon to go away. So yeah, well, the two of us will split or try to split, leaving Callum with Beetlejuice.
Okay. So the situation right now is I think we're going to have probably two different resolutions to bring the scene to an end. You've got Agatha, Jeb, and Mr. Madamford, who are kind of running out of the gym, and you would see that Moses and Hannah are now taking up some pursuit. So that's going to be an encounter that we'll kind of figure out how that ends. But then we have Beetlejuice and Callum, the elder ghost of Palmer Eldritch, that are confronting the demon that was kind of separated from Jeb. And so, Lydia, what would you do at this point? I mean, those are like the two main kind of points of focus now in the scene.
Yeah, I'm guessing Lydia would probably take Bertha and Prudence and hightail it with the others, knowing that Beetlejuice can stand on his own, especially if he's got help.
Okay. All right. So let's do the scene with Hannah and Moses first. You kind of get out of the gym, but they increasingly kind of get into hot pursuit of you. You are outside of the gym, kind of towards the parking lot. By this point, most of the parking lot has kind of cleared away. You kind of smell burned rubber out there, and you can maybe see in the distance some cars that are kind of hightailing it to get away from this battle of the bands that has devolved into chaos. But Agatha, what do you do? I mean, you know, Hannah and Moses are kind of gaining ground on you.
All right, I lead my group of merry friends to the dumpsters. For I spent a lot of time in those dumpsters because kids aren't very nice. And I had discovered a tunnel. Once you go deep down into they're like those big dumpsters,
Mm-hmm.
But if you go down into the dumpster, there is a little tunnel that you can kind of go into, and I think I want to lead my friends into there.
Okay. And do you all go along with this? Jeb, are you gonna follow along with Mr. Madamford and hightailing it out of there?
Yeah, for the time being. Now, Mr. Madamford, he's dead, right? Is he a ghost? Have we solidified that?
He does seem ghostly to you. Yeah, I mean, he has this very pale, kind of glowing skin.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
He still has my book, right?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for the time being, I'm gonna stay with them and try to stay ahead of the cult members.
Okay.
All right.
All right. right, so Laura, why don't you roll for this? This is you are well acquainted with the nooks, crannies, and skeletons of the school, so you're going to be drawing upon this as a resource here. I'm going to give you 2 dice.
All right, sounds good.
Do you want to gamble any?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty important escape, so I'll gamble 1.
Okay.
So, and then my skeletons at the school get me 2.
Right, so you have 5 total right now.
Yes.
Jeff,
I'll give 1.
Okay, so you are
To assist
assisting with
with
the
the
escape.
escape.
Okay, so you've got 6 now to roll.
All right. All right, we have 2 1s.
All right, so I'll take care of the bookkeeping here, but Laura, you get your monologue of victory. This is going to work for
Okay,
you.
so I think we all managed to get to the general direction of the dumpster, and I think that I have people like lifted up into I create a base with my hands so that I can like lift people up into the dumpster and tell them to go down. Just go down. You'll understand when you get there. And then I try to jump into the dumpster, hopefully without being seen by our pursuers.
Yeah, so you are successful in that, and as far as you know, right, you were able to give, to lose the pursuers, who are probably now kind of confused as to where exactly you went, because they seem to have been gaining ground on you, but they get to the dumpsters and are looking around. Let's go back into the gym now and take on the demon versus Beetlejuice and Callum. And Callum, what do you do to take on this demon, who has foiled your attempts once before?
Right, yeah. So I'm talking to Beetlejuice, and we're like, okay, so something's got to work on this guy. Just attacking him straight on doesn't work. We have to do something from a distance, right? So both of us are trying to like think of abilities that we can use that are not physically based, right? And I'm looking at my my traits list here, and I'm thinking conservative action sounds like the most direct, distance-based spiritual attack that I have. Perhaps.
Okay. And how are you going to employ that? Is this that you're going to try to get into a conversation with the demon? Is that?
Yeah, I think I might have to. Can I use a combination of that and strike fear?
Yeah. What you need to do, if 2 apply, you use one of them. So I think one of them has to be dominant, and that's the one that you would roll.
Yeah. I think my goal is to use conservative logic to argue that the demon should be afraid.
Okay.
And shouldn't want to exist.
Okay.
So I think that's what I'm going to try to do. So I think the strike fear is going to be my dominant one, and then conservative action is going to be like the supporting trait.
Okay.
Okay.
So
do you want me to use 2 die for that, or?
Well, I'm going to give you 2 as the GM gift, and then if strike fear is the dominant one, if that's mainly what you're trying to accomplish, then you would get a die for that, and then you can also gamble dice if you want to do this.
Mm-hmm. I will be doing this. This is my Hail Mary.
Okay.
So I'm going to be gambling 3 die. I shouldn't use all of them, so I'm going to use 3.
Okay. So that gives you 6 to roll.
Yes, it does. And there's no one else around, right?
Well,
it's
except
just Beetlejuice, and he doesn't have dice.
Right.
So
he's giving you moral support, though. He says, "Lay it
that's
on,
nice.
Lay it on, brother. You tell him.
Wow.
Tell that demon. You kind of, attack him with your scholastic philosophy stuff that you're doing right now. That'll do the trick."
Right. Okay, cool. So 6 die, 66 then total, right?
Yep.
All right, here we go. Oh. Wait, no, I have to double click for each die, right?
Yeah. Well, what you can do.
Sorry?
Yeah. If you want to, is that what you're doing? You're just rolling them each.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no, that didn't work because then all of them rolled at the end.
What you can do is you can delete them all and just kind of roll them all again.
Smart. Smart. I'll do that. There we go.
There you go. You have
two ones.
Yes. So, so with that, you're. I'm going to delete the dice you gambled, but you get a monologue of victory for this. So describe how this all goes down.
All right. Well, I put aside my fear of technology and I step up to the microphone and I stare down Demon and I start saying, now you listen here, Demon. The one thing that you're not going to be able to get in this modern day, well, that is a calm day of satisfaction, because you know what, kids these days are just running around and they don't care nothing about no superstition. They're going to try to use logic and they don't believe in nothing nowadays. So you know what, no one's going to follow you and you ain't going to get no power around here. So you know what, you better just scramble right on back to where you came from, and I don't want to hear no nothing about those like little children that you got possessing and stuff. So you're just going to leave them, little old Jebediah, alone here, you hear?
Oh yeah. And while you say this, you notice that this demon is shrinking, as he listens to you, and he tries to get in a word, but you will not let him get a word in edgewise, and he's going to be convinced by this eloquent and passionate discourse that you have launched for him. And finally, he kind of dwindles down to like just a small little pint-sized demon, ultimately. Aww. And and you see a sad look on his face, but finally he kind of sees that really the gym is empty. There is nobody here now for him to possess, and he kind of cowers and scurries away, right, into the dusk. And
yes.
And I think that brings the scene to an end. That we don't know. The demon is perhaps out there somewhere. Hannah and Moses are perhaps out there somewhere. But Agatha, you have come through. Lydia and Jeb have been saved from this, and we have a kind of at least a temporarily triumphant end to the scene. I want to try, if we can, to play out one short scene, which would be the scene like prior to this one. The scene we're going to play is a scene earlier on that day, and it was Saturday detention. And so we are back in the library, and Lydia, you know that you are there, right? Because you fell under the suspicion of cheating in Mr. Vonnick's class. But Claire is also in Saturday detention. Agatha, you are once again the one supervising this event. Callum, what would you be doing on a Saturday morning? I mean, usually school is empty, but sometimes there's a detention or something going on. What would be your typical activity on a Saturday?
Well, I'm usually keeping an eye on whether or not there's any students misusing any school property, keeping an eye, like running a patrol kind of around the perimeter, keeping an eye on stuff, because sometimes you never know with students, they like to take advantage of school property now and then. So I'm just keeping an eye on any wayward souls.
Okay. And then Jeb, we haven't decided about you. Would you be serving another Saturday detention?
I wasn't serving a detention. I just came to detention because of because Lydia was there and there was the Beetlejuice connection. So I just showed up and I'm sitting right next to Claire, just staring at her and just telling her like to confess, like not quite in her personal bubble, but like right at the very edge of it, right? And just like confess. And that's what I'm doing.
All right. So you're and Agatha, are you allowing Jeb to serve detention even though he doesn't really have detention to serve?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that he probably actually comes in quite often, uh, just to like get away from whatever he's facing at home. So he's just not kind of here in the library pretty often on Saturdays.
Okay. Um, so Saturday detention usually goes on for a number of hours, and a couple hours elapse, and Agatha, when you are going kind of, this is not in the main stacks, but you have, in the back, the large back room of the library, you have, things that teachers can check out, but really aren't necessarily available for students and things like that. And it's also where the school archives are. You happen to notice when you walk back there that somebody has been rummaging around in the school archives. This would be like old books and records and maybe artifacts of the school that are kind of way back in the kind of back corner of this room. But you notice that there's been something that's been happening back there to kind of disturb all of that stuff.
Okay. I think I would probably recognize what exactly it is. Like, if like a book is missing, I feel like I would probably know, right?
You would have to inventory it. I mean, that the school's been around for quite a while, so that there's a lot of stuff. But I mean, it looks like it's kind of been, things have been just kind of taken off of shelves, put on the floor, right? I mean, that it's all kind of discombobulated back there.
I think I shake my head and start looking at the books to see if there's like a connection between like what this person was looking for. Unless, does it look like it was a more ghostly activity, or was it just like, does this seem like human in nature? Can I get a vibe check, please?
Yeah, what would you be rolling with on this one? Well acquainted with the skeletons of the school?
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So
Okay.
you can do that, and I will give you 2 dice.
Oh, that's
with
very
that.
nice. Okay. Oh, no ones.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to add a die to your remainder, or do you want to take a monologue of defeat?
Um, I'm trying to think. I guess I'll take a a dice to my remainder. I don't know what a defeat would look like. Like, would that just be like I don't know anything? I'm none the wiser, and I now have a mess to clean up.
Yeah, well, that's fine. You can take the die, and then you kind of throw it back to me to kind of explain
Okay, yeah,
what
I'll
the
do
defeat
that.
is. Yeah, so you're kind of looking back there, trying to kind of get a sense of whether there's something supernatural about this or something natural. Um, Claire, with you kind of gone for so long, Claire has kind of gotten up to kind of see where you have gone, and you hear her voice behind you, and she says it a little bit under her breath, but you can hear it, and Claire says, "Ah, Miss Galloway has such a trashy library. Look at this mess she's keeping back here."
I turn to her.
And let's also say that okay, you turn to her and you see that she's also taking some photographs of you and this kind of big mess that's back here where the school archives are supposed to be.
I look at her and then I snatch away her phone, saying, "Blame it or praise it. There is no denying the wild horse in us."
And she kind of steps back and says, "What in the world are you saying?"
strewn with the wreckage of those who have minded beyond reason the opinion of others.
Okay.
I am made and remade continually. People draw different words from me.
All right. Now, Laura, with this, are you? Do you want to roll something for this, or what exactly are you trying to accomplish here?
I mean, this is just the way that I speak.
Okay.
Like,
Okay. Okay.
I'm just trying to establish my authority, I guess.
Okay. So Callum is. I mean, I'm sorry. Claire is a student, and so she kind of steps back a little bit and is gives you this very quizzical look. Callum, you would the main activity on school is really here for detention. There's not really anybody else out and about. I think it's reasonable to think you would be in this area as well. Would you do anything at this point?
I don't think I'm stepping in necessarily, but I'm definitely agreeing with Agatha along the way. So like kind of thinking poorly of the students that think poorly of Miss Galloway's tidiness and that sort of stuff. So I'm not directly messing with the students, but I'm sympathizing with Agatha.
Okay. So Claire would kind of step back. Agatha, you have her phone right now, and Claire is going to go back to her seat. She'll try to take a little bit of distance from Jeb, who creeps her out with his comments. Lydia, do you do anything during this time?
I think like the previous times that Lydia's been in detention, she's probably trying to catch up on homework. Maybe like texting with Prudence and Bertha, since the Battle of the Bands is supposed to be tonight and they can't rehearse because she's stuck in detention.
Okay. While you're doing that texting, Bertha has come across a Snapchat thing with some pictures of Agatha, and they're not really flattering pictures. I mean that it's kind of like a student has been shooting pictures of Agatha, intentionally kind of getting shots where she has a goofy expression on her face, or where she's like in an odd pose or something like that. Yes.
I would like to step in and use Technology Destroyer.
Okay.
To defend the wonderful teachers of Eldritch High.
Okay. So are you gonna try to destroy Lydia's phone here?
Yes, or at least mess with it, like cause a glitch or something like that.
Okay.
Depending on my success.
Yeah, you can do that. So I'm going to give you 2 dice, and you'll get the 2 dice for being a technology destroyer here.
Yep. And I think that's all I will use. I will not use any extras. And I get I get a 1, a 2, and a 5, and a 6.
Okay. So you get a monologue of victory.
Okay, so I step up to Lydia's phone, and she can't really see me. I'm in like ethereal ghost mode, and I'm chanting a little anti-phone hex to stop her from being able to take any kind of photographs. And every time it does, her phone will freeze and turn off. And it will only ever save photos when she's first turning on the phone, and she's really ugly from a bottom position. So those are the only pictures that'll ever show up on her phone ever again.
Okay. And let's also say that Lydia, you were able to catch that. Did I say it was Bertha who had sent you these things? Yeah.
Yes.
So you were able to catch, before the kind of glitch happened, that Bertha says, "I think Claire is the source." In other words, Bertha thinks that these kind of unflattering pictures of Agatha are ultimately pictures that Claire has been taking to kind of put her in an unfavorable light, or just to kind of make her a joke among her friends.
So, does the glitch affect my ability to see what Bertha has texted me, or does it just mess up my camera so it now only takes unflattering shots of my neck?
It's kind of wiped everything, and now the only new content is unflattering photos of your
Okay.
neck.
So Lydia would have intended to kind of see what Claire is up to, but now that she's lost all of this, everything on her phone, she assumes that Beetlejuice is messing with her. So under her breath, she's just like, Beetlejuice. And I
Yeah.
guess dejected now, she'll look for Claire to see where Claire is.
Yeah, Claire is, I guess we'd say, just kind of coming back and has taken her seat again, without her phone, because Agatha is now in possession of Claire's phone. And as I say, she kind of tries to intentionally seat herself a little bit away from Jeb, who is kind of always kind of dogging her and kind of making her feel a little bit unsettled.
So I think when she sits, then it'll just be under my breath, but loud enough for her to hear. Nice Snapchat, Claire.
Um, and and Claire kind of looks at you, and I think she smiles a little bit, because she knows about the Snapchat and what's been kind of going on, and in fact had just been taking some pictures of Agatha and quickly kind of trying to forward those on to her friends. Um, I'm going to go ahead and bring this scene to an end, but the way that the scene will end is, a little bit more time elapses, and Agatha, you go back to, let's actually just put this at the end of detention. And you are kind of getting ready to pack up and to kind of lock up the library. You go back to your desk in your office, and you do see a book. It's a book from the archives that has been removed. And the book is open, okay, to a page. And the page is, it's from an old yearbook, and it's open to a page that has a picture of Mr. Madamford on it, and you see that Mr. Madamford is carrying in his hand a book it's a novel of Virginia Woolf's, In the Lighthouse. And on the cover of the book is written, my dearest Agatha, keep strong. And the odd thing about this is that this is a book, it's a yearbook from a time before you ever got there. And the writing on the book, it seems like it was actually written on the cover of the book in the photograph. So kind of chronologically speaking, it doesn't make much sense.
Okay, I kind of look, I go to the yearbook, and I kind of put my hand on the page, and I murmur to myself, the thing is to free oneself, to let it find its dimensions, not to be impeded. My dear Mr. Madamford, how could you have known?
Yeah, and you don't see anything or hear anything, but you do have a kind of warm rush, a kind of a sense of a warm presence that is in the room with you.
I nod my head and say I understand.
Okay. And why don't we have that as the kind of wrap up moment for the scene? Perhaps a little foreshadowing for the Battle of the Bands evening and the Mr. Madamford's kind of appearance on the stage then. So, that is the pool. And this was pretty quick. I mean, so we didn't get, fully into, we got a little taste of the reverse order thing and how that would kind of operate there. But I guess what you're trying to do when you kind of try to back things up is you're trying to like end the scene. Okay, so we played out the first scene, and so when we do the second scene, we try to end up the scene in some way that there would be one or more little elements that would kind of get kind of carried on into the later scene. So you get, try as much as you can to get some type of kind of continuity kind of operating that way. Why don't we do what we did last week, and we can kind of collect our thoughts, and we'll just kind of do a little round table and get people's reactions to the game, either additional things from last week that you think maybe were unsaid that you would like to say this week, or anything that you have to say about the session that we played today. And Linnea, maybe we will start with you since you were our new player of the week. What did you think of the pool?
Well, initially, I really like these tabletop RPGs that are just like looser forms of cooperative storytelling, where you can kind of understand the systems if you played any kind of board game or tabletop RPG from before and sort of how it works. But you don't need to understand the systems to kind of play along, because it is cooperative storytelling. The thing that I find interesting that I haven't quite like resolved for myself how I would like it to be, but I like that this experiment of like doing the narrative backwards, but we see that the mechanics, like the pool for the dice that you have, or the points that you have, those are forwardly linear through the player's experience of the narrative, which is being told backwards. So in my head, that's always like interesting how that plays out, because you expect the final confrontation to take up a lot of dice, but then if you actually move backwards through the story, you kind of end up with less dice then than you would need later on, and it feels kind of interesting, I think, to handle it that way. It's definitely really fun, and I like all of the characters and the context that we have to play with.
Yeah, and I like what you're saying about in terms of the dice that you have to work with. Particularly, we're thinking about the dice that you can gamble. Where normally in a game you would think, oh, that's a valuable resource that you have, and so normally it works is that you're kind of going in more traditional chronological order, and so you kind of start with like your arsenal fully loaded at the beginning, and then that would kind of dwindle, and that would add extra drama to whatever kind of final confrontation there would be. I mean, I guess what you could maybe I don't know. You could conceivably say, okay, well, when we do it in reverse order, maybe for the first scene that you do, maybe you don't have any dice in that remainder thing. And then the scene that you play out next, maybe you say, oh, you have a few dice to work with then. And then, right, you kind of build up those resources as you kind of work your way back in time.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I really like, though, it does kind of, it feels reminiscent of like a film noir sort of setup with like looking back at this section, looking back at that section, and you learn something new at each window. So I think that part works really, really well.
Yeah. Brandon, any comments this week on the game?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. I think it's a fair point. You kind of unload early in the game, and then you could leave yourself at the mercy of the GM, I guess, because you're out of dice. if you look at that, but I guess psychologically in my head, if I'm thinking about the kind of chronology of it, it would be the kind of same way of playing if you're like I'm a hoarder, like I notoriously hoard stuff and then like unload it at the very end, right? And so I mean like I think it adds an interesting psychological dimension to play it that way because I've unloaded everything early. That's the way I would have played regularly because you know like because I would unload it at the final end, but then you're kind of you know stuck I guess at the whims of the way the story is going to unload. I guess it kind of leaves yourself kind of floating without a direction, I guess. You know, that way. But I thought it went well. I think again, the way I like this, the application you have for class, obviously for education, I really like the building narratives that continue to kind of go on, right? This went to a couple different. I think we could have gone a few different directions with the kind of way it went today, and I felt the way it went kind of concluded things in a creative manner. And allowed a lot of people input. So I felt like the story building narrative worked really well.
Yeah. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, on that kind of idea of the building narrative, I really liked the interim between the two games where we got to add the 15 words and kind of had 9 points again to deal with because I could imagine that. And again, the idea of kind of using this in the classroom, I can imagine prompts you could give to students or just ways that they could use that between classes to kind of keep that narrative going, but also to, I don't know, like reflect on what happened in that previous class as to what they're going to add going into the next class. And so it's similar to thoughts I had last time just about how these little narrative elements are really nice and how it seems like they would fit really well and very easily into lessons in the classroom.
Yeah. And you know, the game I think works well as, I mean, it can work well as a one shot, but yeah, but I also like the way that it kind of neatly kind of adds that element to it where, you know, you can kind of stretch it out over a number of sessions, and with that ability to kind of add additional words after every session to your character description, and you get like added traits that you can kind of bring into it, right? Adds a kind of interesting element for kind of longer term kind of ongoing play. Laura, how about you? Any reactions this week?
Well, I mean, I love the going backwards in time, starting at the very end and going to the beginning. I thought that added a great level of dimension and suspense to this. And then I was just noticing this week how different all of our characters are and how the setup of our characters allows us to have very different dynamic characters that have like we have Lydia who's almost, and Beetlejuice who are almost cartoonish. We have Jeb who is the from a cult. We have a ghost. We have a very odd librarian, and how they very neatly meld into like this world. But how they're definitely there's just that diversity, which I think is really cool and which I really appreciate.
Yeah, and I you know, kind of to make that point, I was just looking at the images you all had provided in the character keeper, and just came across Mr. Callum, who is was really puts a different
very welcome
idea in my head for who that ghost looked like. Yeah. Yeah, it is true though. Yeah, that the you know, the open-ended nature of how you kind of create your character can kind of give you a pretty wide range of different personalities to work with. One of the things I like about it, just running it as a game master, is that, you know, the character descriptions kind of give me the ideas for how to frame scenes, so that, you know, what I try to do, it's not me trying to independently create some type of adventure or something for the players and then trying to kind of fit the players into what I've tried to devise in advance. Instead, I like this idea that the players are kind of telling me through their descriptions the kinds of things that they're interested in exploring, And so it's, in terms of any kind of prep work that I have, what I'm trying to do is to kind of come up with scenes, situations, non-player characters, and things like that that will effectively kind of work and kind of weave the character descriptions kind of into the scenario. Which hopefully then I'm hoping that from a player side, it makes the players kind of more invested in the game because they say, oh, you know, my description has become the kind of fabric of the kind of scenes that are getting framed. And I also, one other comment I would make is that when in the pool, when you do it in reverse order, as a game master, I really find it fun to frame that opening scene because it's like, okay, I can just throw something kind of dramatic and wild on the table, and I don't have to really fully explain exactly how things came to this state, and I don't really even know where that narrative is going to go. But I like the wild, okay, here's a crazy scene that's kind of happening, and you all kind of know that, right, things are in motion here. It's this very kind of dramatic in medias res opening. Things are in motion. We don't really quite know what it is that's happening, but you do it in such a way that that you're invested in it, right? I mean, we're at the Battle of the Bands, so that we know that Lydia is invested in it, and we have Mr. Madamford reading or singing words that Agatha has written in her experimental short story, so she knows that she's kind of somehow involved in the scene as well. All right. I see that the 1 o'clock hour is upon us. Anything else that anybody would like to add about the game today, or anything else?
It was fun. Thanks for having me.
Well, Linnea,
Thanks, Robbie. This was really good.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Great. You're very welcome, and thank you all for coming. And Linnea, I'm really happy that you were able to join in with us this week. So, yeah, thank you. And I'm planning to kind of continue on with these types of gameplay sessions. So, if don't be surprised if you in the future kind of get an email from me saying, okay, if you're interested in kind of taking on a different game with a different kind of focus, I will be possibly sending emails to you down the road to see if you want to join in again with one of my experiments.